Welcome to Her Remarkable History. Remember, to support our channel, please subscribe. The painful life and death of Queen Anne. The last of the Stuart monarchs to reign was Queen Anne. She is best remembered for being the one who achieved a successful union between England and Scotland in 1707, and also during her reign the War of the Spanish Succession came to an end. She was a popular queen even when she was coronated following the death of King William III, but throughout her life she suffered greatly with ill health, failed pregnancies, and conditions that caused her significant pain. She grew very ill in her 30s, and she died at the age of 49 at Kensington Palace on the 1st of August 1714. But what happened during her life, and why was she in such poor health? Anne Stuart and her older sister Mary were the only living children of James the Duke of York and his first wife, Anne Hyde. At the age of 3, she was sent to France to have her eyes looked at by professionals as she was suffering from issues with her vision, and she remained in France for 2 years, learning French well. But when she returned, her mother had died and her father had converted to Catholicism, and he was looking for a new wife. He married Maria Beatrice of Modena, a girl who was just 15 and was less than 4 years older than Anne's elder sister Mary. Mary later then married at the same age to William of Orange. Anne's marriage was affected by politics, and her father, who would become James II, the king, was worried about Catholic plots to assassinate the king, James and Maria of Scotland, and Anne would visit her father in 1681. After Charles II solidified his reign, Anne married to Prince George of Denmark, but on her 20th birthday, Charles II would die, and her father succeeded him as James II. Now, James II isn't considered to have been the greatest king, and he was arrogant towards Parliament, and his staunch Catholicism was disliked by many, and because of this, a number of powerful nobles were behind his back, and invited William of Orange to invade. Anne herself, along with her husband, supported the Glorious Revolution of 1688, which saw her father, James II, be replaced by William and Mary. Princess Anne was already suffering with poor health. She had already suffered from a number of miscarriages, and had also lost 2 of her infant daughters to smallpox in 1687. She did give birth to a son in 1689, William the Duke of Gloucester, who lived the longest of her children, but he too passed away at the age of 11. Following the death of William II, Queen Anne came onto the throne. She appointed a number of key members of her government who were experts in carrying out her policies in England and abroad. She secured an alliance with the Netherlands and the Holy Roman Empire, and she declared war on France, with her armies winning a number of brilliant victories against the French. She did experience some pressure during her reign from politicians, but one of the biggest things she did was agree a treaty with Scotland. Scotland would come under the watchful eye of England, and Anne would guarantee Scotland the financial support from England, and also secure the border between the two against potential threats from the Scottish and also the French if they secured an alliance. One British Parliament would meet, and there would be a common flag, common coins, and custom unions for trade. Anne became pregnant 18 times, but each of her children passed away, and it was William the Duke of Gloucester, as mentioned, who lived the longest. She had never been in good health, and she became incredibly upset and devastated with the death of her husband George at the age of 55 in 1708. She could not rely on those she needed to support her at this time, and as she continued to suffer with gout. During her coronation, she was suffering so much with the condition that she had to be carried on her crowning to an open chair, being unable to walk. But towards the end of her life, she suffered more with the condition and began to become bedbound, and she could not walk at all. At Christmas in 1713, she was suffering greatly with a fever, and she lost consciousness for hours, and this led to many rumours that the Queen had died. But she did manage to recover from this, but in the following March she became ill again. It was clear in the summer of 1714 that Anne was incredibly ill, but despite her failing health, of which she blamed on the government causing her stress, she continued to work. She became unable to attend meetings and suffered from a very bad stroke on the 30th of July 1714. She passed away on the 1st of August around 1714, and many of her doctors believed that this was a relief from the suffering and pain. One doctor wrote, "I believe sleep was never more welcome to a weary traveller than death was to her. Following her death, her body was so swollen with dropsy that she had to be interred in a coffin that was huge and square in its size." Such was the size she had swelled to. But before her burial inside of Henry VIII's chapel in Westminster Abbey, her body was subjected to an autopsy. Dr. Thomas Lawrence carried this out, and he opened up the Queen's body and found a small umbilical hernia before she was embalmed. Other physicians were on hand to see, and it was believed that this could have been the cause of much of her ill health. She had also become very obese during her life, also as the years went on, which could have caused her death to become accelerated. Queen Anne was 49 when she passed away, and her reign had been seen by some as favourably, but others at the time slandered her as a fool and classed her as ignorant. She was seen by others as a stubborn queen, but today she's considered that she was a woman able to impose her will on the country, but also a queen who suffered greatly with her health. She was a queen who suffered throughout her life with 18 failed pregnancies and births, with no son or daughter living to act as her heir. She was greatly affected with her gout, and also the grief of the death of her husband. Queen Anne's reign today is seen by some as a rather sad one, and she is considered the ill queen, who was the final one of the Stuart monarchs who had sat on the throne for a while. But she was also the first sovereign of Great Britain, and during her reign there was a significant amount of change. Queen Anne was the queen who suffered a huge deal. Thank you for watching, and to support, please subscribe to Her Remarkable History. Thank you.